Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Welcome everybody. Inshallah, we're going to be continuing with our discussion and our reading of Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak's book on Zuhud. So tonight, there's two kind of like back-to-back chapters that relate to one another. The first chapter is about striving in worship and being a person that knows how to really, as they say, dig deep when it comes to your prayers and your worship. And the second chapter, it's a short one, and then the second chapter is about sincerity, and that one's a little bit longer, inshallah. So we're going to start with the one about striving and really, really exerting effort. You see this concept in books on spirituality and tazkiyah and tasawwuf, where the scholars will talk about effort. And, many people who maybe grew up with Arab relatives or in Arabic households, you may have heard the phrase, fil haraka baraka, or ma'al haraka baraka, that when you do things, right, things become blessed, right? When you do things, then ultimately efforts are rewarded. And there's another jaza'u min jins al-amal, that the reward is based on the body of work that a person puts forward. So all of these are different indications that intention means a lot. Intention, we know, we're going to go over in the next section about intention. But to couple with intention, we also have to ask ourselves not just what we're doing or why we're doing it, but the other question, which is how much effort are we putting forth? How much effort are we exerting in this situation? And naturally, when a person looks and does that in self-reflection or investigation about their effort, they can quickly determine, right, how much they care about something. Human beings are both very good at hiding and very, very bad at hiding how they feel, right? So we can keep our words, we can be quiet, we can keep our words to ourselves, but ultimately the way that we behave is usually a pretty good and accurate indication of how we feel about something. So, the weather is a good example. A lot of us probably don't want to go out in this weather, right? I'm surprised that you even showed up here. But if you had plans and you already didn't really want to go, okay, you had plans and you already were like, I'm not really feeling it, right? I'm not really trying to go. And then it starts to rain. With your lips and with your body language, you're like, oh no. But in your heart, you're like, alhamdulillah, right? You celebrate it, okay? Because you do not want to exert effort for something that you ultimately are not invested in. So here's the issue now. The issue is, we believe this to be true. We know that it's a factual reality. The heart does what it wants. But what does that say now about our performance of prayer and worship? What does that say about the indication that our effort gives us about our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And that's the scary part. Because the Quran is filled with different questions, rhetorical questions about, why do you say that which you don't do? Why do Allah Ta'ala hates that people say things and then they do the opposite of those things. It's one thing to already have a vulnerability or a weakness or whatever you want to call it. That's one thing. But it's a completely different story for a person to have that weakness and to completely ignore it, or to try to frame it and present it as if it's not what it is. So when a person looks at themselves and they see a lack of effort or a lack of desire to do something, the first thing that we have to do is we have to understand that when we identify this, it's actually a blessing. Even though it's a little bit disconcerting, it's a blessing. Because my effort is telling me that I actually have a lot more to grow and to gain. And so when we are on the receiving end of this critique, it's actually very, very important. And the reason why I'm giving this long introduction is because the first narration is very strong. It's a lot. But for people who want to succeed, sometimes hearing things that are a little bit sour is the right way to go if you want to succeed. For people that are ambivalent about being successful, then they're more concerned about not being irritated, right? But as Rumi said, as Jalaluddin Rumi said, like if you hate every scrub, then how will your heart ever become polished? You know, if you really want to get the grime and the filth off, you have to be willing to scrub, right? I know all of us, we're 30 and up. We all own scrub daddies, right? We've all purchased very, very tough and difficult. The lights are being tough and difficult. We've all purchased scrub daddies, right? Because we all want to get that stuff off, right? If you're old school, you may remember steel wool, right? Or that like chain that you get if you made that chai and the milk is stuck to the bottom and you just have to scrub and scrub and scrub, right? That's the heart. كَلَّا بَلْ رَانَ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. Allah Ta'ala in the Quran, He says that the heart has rust on it. And that residue, that dirt, is stuck to the heart and it's got to be scrubbed off. And it takes hard work. You got to really exert force. So Layth narrated that Mujahid, he said, that when speaking about us, he said, مَا الْمُجْتَهِدُ فِيكُمُ الْيَوْمِ. He says, there is not a single person today or those amongst you who think that they're working really, really hard today. He said about us, right? إِلَّا كَاللَّعِبْ فِيهِمْ. Fihim here, he's talking about the past. So this is a classic tool that's used in order to show the difference between people now and people then. You guys ever heard the phrase like they don't make them like this anymore? So this is what Mujahid is saying. Mujahid is talking about the people, the pious predecessors, the earliest generations that he spent time with. And he's saying that the people I see today, and this statement, by the way, is like perfect for our generation. The people I'm seeing today, their idea of hard work compared to what people back then used to do is like playtime. How many of you agree with this statement generally about younger people today? Their idea of hard work is kind of like recreation and socializing. It's true. And this is unfortunately part of the, I don't want to say curse, but part of the challenge and the burden of aging is that as you age, right, there's the great sort of cycle that hard times create strong people create good times create weak people, and weak people create hard times. There's this never-ending cycle in history. And so you have to figure out and determine, like, which one of those are we? You know, an interesting story, Ali radiallahu an, who was obviously the cousin of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but historically significant, he was the fourth Khalifa. And in his time, in the time of Ali radiallahu anhu, there was there was an amount of turmoil and civil war between Muslims because of the assassination of Uthman, and then ultimately some people that had developed ideas about, you know, how to handle that situation. Anyways, it's its own lecture for another time. But Ali radiallahu anh one time was being approached by people who actually criticized his leadership. They actually told him, like, why is it that during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, none of this happened? They thought they had like a gotcha moment. Like, why is it that there was no turmoil, there was no civil war, there was no, during the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And why is it, Adi, that it's happening during your time? And they brought this up in a way that was almost a little bit like argumentative, challenging, combative. You know what he said? He goes, because back in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, he had followers like me, and now I have followers like you. That was his way of saying, like, they don't make them like they used to. Back in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, I was one of his followers. The quality of individual, me, I was one of his followers. So we never used to have civil dispute leading to war and battle. But now Allah tested me with people like you. You're my followers. You're the best we got. And because your ego is fragile and your spirit is weak and this, you know, it's unfortunate, but we got to deal with it. So Mujahid, he begins, you know, Abdullah ibn Mubarak, he begins his chapter by saying, look, part of the realization that you have to have if you want to be able to work hard and strive and worship, one of those things is that you have to admit that you're not perfect. And you have to be able to say, you know what? I have flaws. And you can look back at the generations before And you don't need to look too far, and you can identify traits and characteristics and dedications. Right? Why is it that every family can tell a story about a grandparent, grandfather, grandmother that was really regular with prayer or going to the masjid or praying qiyam or tahajjud? Why do we all have that story? People who have Muslim heritage and lineage, they all have that story. And the question begs to be asked, why did that story stop with that person? Why were they the last ones? And Mujahid is alluding to that. And he's saying that the difference between you and your nani or your dadi, your teta, who prays qiyam, is not that miraculously that she's like made or he's made of some different composite like DNA. No. The difference is what? One of these individuals is accustomed and willing to put forward the work, and the other one really needs their beauty sleep. Right? Now, which one are we? May Allah Ta'ala make us hard workers. So he says, today, those of you who strive, who work hard, are only like those in previous generations who used to just kind of, play around a little bit. Now, why is this the case? Man, this is getting real. Another scholar, Al-Awza'i, he reported that he heard Bilal ibn Sa'ad, his teacher, say that he gave a few different traits. And this is really important. SubhanAllah. Man, this is heavy for me even to read. I feel an indictment on my soul already, SubhanAllah. The first trait, he says, is Zahidukum raghibun. This statement, or this, his list that he's going to provide, is a set of contradictions. So he says, Zahidukum raghibun. A zahid in Arabic is the title for a person that has no worldly desire. They have no worldly needs. Like, they're happy. They're content. They're satisfied. And they don't need more material indulgences to become happier. They're just as happy having dal, right, lentils, as they are having the most luxurious and fancy meal known as noodle wave. They're just as satisfied. Doesn't matter if you put almond sriracha chicken in front of them or whatever, a side salad. There's no complaints coming out of these people. That's a zahid. Now, how does a zahid become a zahid? How does a person work on zuhud? Well, they ultimately have to become people that don't have constant material aspirations. Like, you just got the iPhone 15 and you load up, your social media, and the first thing that pops up is like iPhone 16 leaked. And you're literally still brand new on your phone, and you're already hoping and aspiring to acquire the newer one. Okay? Or, you just got something coming in the mail and you're already shopping while you have other packages en route. This is the definition of material aspiration. Never being satisfied, always needing more, needing the rush of endorphins to receive and to acquire more and more. So he said, this is interesting, Zahidukum, your zuhad, your ascetics, your people who are not of this dunya, he says, raghibun. They claim to be ascetic, but they want so much from the dunya. And this is like a really interesting, it's a contradiction, but he's trying to make a point. He's saying that our zuhad, the people that we spent time with, these people, they actually didn't care. They genuinely did not complain. They genuinely had it did not matter to them whether you put them in a Bentley or whether you put them on a bicycle. They were satisfied. But he said, your people that claim to be spiritually enlightened, for some reason, they all live in Beverly Hills. They only shop at Whole Foods. They won't be seen in anything but brand name. Right? That's not zahid. That's not zuhud. That's not a person who's disconnected from the world. And if you take away, this is the interesting thing, if you take away the creature comforts, all of a sudden that contentment with Allah also starts to go away. So we only are pleased with Allah, I'm only zahid when I have everything. But if Amazon messages me and says your package is delayed, I say, what am I even paying for? Prime, right? Should be here in 2 days. They promised it was going to be here from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. And now they have the audacity to say it's been delayed from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. They changed my window by 3 hours. And we start complaining. As if what? SubhanAllah. As if it's not a blessing to be able to even have things, buy them in the first place, have them shipped in the first place, receive them next day in the first place. But now a slight inconvenience. That means that what? Our zuhud is misplaced. Our zuhud is misplaced. And then he says, وَمُجْتَهِدُكُمْ مُقَصِّرٌ. He says, your hard workers, the ones who claim to be hard workers, they fall short. Right? Anyone go to the gym this year, January 2nd? Anyone go today? What was the difference? Our hard workers fall short, man. Not everyone's David Goggins. Right? Not everyone can keep up with their promises. Your LinkedIn might say something else. Our social media might say really hard worker. But really, are we as hard of a worker as others that we see? You know what's crazy? When I see, subhanAllah, like videos of people and the way that Allah gives them livelihood. So you see, for example, like an individual. I saw a video recently of Costa Rica where this man's job, like his job, the way he feeds himself and his family, is that he takes a giant machete and he cuts off the top of a coconut, makes a chop in it, makes another chop in it, carves a hole, puts a straw in it, and he sells it. There's videos like this all over the internet where you see people standing there in the street, in the heat, rain or shine, no matter what, and they're serving drinks and food, and their money is what they make that day. Now, I don't know how many of you, I know this is 30 and up, I don't know how many of you in your life you have like a teenager or college student. Anybody? Okay. I'm not going to ask for examples. But I want you to imagine telling that teenager, that college student that, hey, you know what, for the summer you got to do that. I'm seeing a lot of facial expressions. There's no chance. But if you ask that same person, like, are you a hard worker? They're like, oh yeah, I study for the SAT every day. Right? Oh yeah, I'm studying all the time. I work really hard on my TikTok dances. But when it comes to actually exerting effort, we always fall short. وَمُجْتَهِدُكُمْ مُقَصِّرًا. Your hard workers, they fall short. Because part of being able to put forth effort is doing things you don't want to do. Like, let's be honest. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even describes وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. It's possible that you dislike something, but it's good for you. Like when you're really tired and you go to sleep and Fajr is in a few hours, yes, you understand the virtue and the benefit and the blessing of Fajr, but can we all agree it's difficult? Yeah. But who gets up? The difference between the person who gets up and the one who does not get up for Fajr is the difference between the person that can motivate themselves to work hard and say, you know what, this is worth it. This is worth it. And then he says, and this one is for me, وَعَالِمُكُمْ جَاهِلٌ. And your scholars are actually ignorant. And then he says, the last one, وَجَاهِلُكُمْ مُخْتَرٌ. And your ignorant people are deluded. So these last two are interesting. People think they know more than they do, and in reality they're ignorant. So the people amongst us who claim to have intelligence, right, are not that smart. And this is, we see a lot of this. I think the situation right now in Gaza and Palestine, you see people with high accolades in academics, PhDs, doctors of political science, doctors of geopolitics, international law, and they're not able to call things clearly as they stand, right? So people who claim to be knowledgeable, people who claim to be high up on the scale of intelligence, they're not. And then he says, and your foolish people, see, even ignorant people have a virtue, which is what? Knowing that they're ignorant. Like if you stepped into an operating room and the doctor said, here you go ahead and start the operation, what would you do? Don't answer if you're a surgeon. That's not fair. What would you, I know there's one of you in here. Don't answer. If you're not a surgeon and you walk into the OR and the doctor hands you, somehow you didn't scrub in. They handed you and they said, here, start. What would you say? Okay, I'm never getting surgery where you guys are. What would you say? No way. Yeah, thank you. No way. Why? Because why? I don't know. I'm ignorant. When it comes to this, what you're asking me to do, I'm an ignorant person. There's no shame in saying I'm ignorant. When it comes to this, I'm ignorant. Please, for the sake of this person, for the sake of me, do not trust me to do something I don't know how to do. But he says, وَجَاهِلُكُمْ مُغْتَرٌ. Your ignorant people won't even admit that they're ignorant. They're deluded into thinking that they know a lot. So all of this is to say, Al-Awza'i is quoting this from Bilal ibn Sa'd, is saying what? That the traits that take away from hard work is all of the opposites of what you actually want to be. Identify yourself and see if you're really walking the walk. See if you're really living that life. Are you really that person? Number one, if you really, really claim to be a person that's not addicted and intoxicated by the material acquisitions of this dunya, then try it out. Give some stuff away. See how it affects you. Don't buy something. Hold yourself back from the second plate of food. Like whatever it takes. Try to tell yourself no with full ability, with full capability, with full purchasing power, whatever it is. And try to tell yourself, you know what, do I really need this? And if the answer is no, and you're able to hold yourself back, despite everyone else around you telling you what, do it, buy it, treat yourself, you deserve it, then you're able to walk away and say, you know what, I don't need this. I'm better off using this money, doing something more valuable. Maybe sending it for charity, maybe buying a gift for my friend, maybe my parents need something, maybe this or this, maybe my siblings could use. That money would be better off instead of this retail therapy that I've become addicted to. Right? It's so interesting. I even hate the fact that I use that phrase, retail therapy. Right? So interesting that those terms have been combined. It's almost like it was done on purpose. Okay? The second is, وَمُجْتَهِدُكُمْ مُقَصِّرٌ. Are you a person that gives up? Can you see something through? Can you actually get to the finish line of a marathon? Right? That's one of the greatest things about seeing people accomplish something. It doesn't matter about what they're accomplishing. You might not value it. My son the other day finished the second Harry Potter book. Don't ask me if it's halal. He hasn't hit puberty yet, so for him it is technically, all right? So leave me alone. He finished the second Harry Potter book. And, you know, it was impressive to see him finish. He was excited that he accomplished something, right? There was another kid that has read all of them. And what did he say? Of course, he's a kid, so I'm not going to. For a second, I was like, put him up. But, what did he say? He read all of the books, so he goes to my son who's finished 2, and he says, what? Oh, you only have read 2? Right? But when someone accomplishes something, we celebrate it. We don't want to be people that give up. Right? Teach yourself. And by the way, if you teach yourself to be a person that doesn't give up, guess who's watching? Everyone around you, your friends, your family, your children, your spouse, people who are your coworkers. If you become a person that doesn't just give up, phone it in, call it off because you don't feel like caring, I have a really, really, subhanAllah, it's such an aspirational quality that I hope to have. I have a friend who, mashallah, he never ever cancels on any commitments that he has, even if it's so difficult. He will make it work. And I asked him why, and he goes, I know that if I cancel on a commitment, the first time in my life I cancel, it's opening a door of cancellations for the rest of my life. So he said, I just want to be the person that keeps my word. If I tell a person I'm going to be there at this time for this thing, he says, I don't want to be the person that cancels, even if it's hard. Because the minute I cancel that first one, next week is another one, the next week is another one, and more and more and more. Don't be a person that bails. When you are in a state of being knowledgeable and you know something, always seek more. Never be satisfied with your learning. I sound like every Desi parent. Never be satisfied with what you know. Always seek more. When it comes to religion, when it comes to your passions, when it comes to what drives you, what connects you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, part of the reason why kids are so charming, like children before they get awkward teenagers, when they're young, they have a natural love and a curiosity for things. And it's almost like they want to keep learning because the world is so big to them. But there's something that happens when a person accomplishes something, gets a degree, gets a couple degrees, where they feel like no longer do I have to actually humble myself, make myself vulnerable, and say that I don't know. But the minute that a person says, I no longer need to learn, that is the beginning of the path of ignorance. And our job as Muslims is to push off the journey of ignorance as long as we can. Even if it's something as simple as what? Just reciting some Quran every day. The Prophet ﷺ said what? بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً. Everyone's job is to be able to teach about the Prophet ﷺ, even if it's one verse. Which means that every day we should be at least engaging with one verse, with the knowledge of it, what it means, what it's saying, where it was revealed, when it was revealed, what's the context. So that if somebody comes and asks me this, I'll be able to at least be prepared at a surface level. And this happens, and I'm going to tell you now, I'm not sure how many in this room are married with kids. I'll tell you when this happens. When everyone starts to panic. I used to call 30 and up the panic halaqah. Because I would see all these really, really panicked faces of parents with children who started asking religious questions. And they would show up and they're like, okay, this halaqah was great, thank you, but when are you going to start talking about like dating and like why, pork and like all these things, why we believe in one God, is Jesus the Son of God? And I'm like, that's a different class, right? That's called pillars, foundations of faith. And they ask, when is that? And what I'm trying to get at here is that all of us have an ample amount of time to prepare ourselves and to be gaining knowledge so that when the time comes, whether it's your sibling, friend, coworker, or child asks you a question, you're prepared. And you're able to say, you know what? No, we actually don't think that Jesus is the Son of God. Why? Because God doesn't have children. He's not like us, right? Having children is a sign of not being God. It's a sign of weakness and need. We have that need. God does not have that need, right? And it's interesting because that preparation, and I'll share with you something, that confidence is usually more of an answer than anything else. When a person comes and asks a question and you have that confidence from that preparation, there is a settling certainty that comes with that. We ask Allah Ta'ala to grant us that. وَجَاهِلُكُمْ مُخْتَغْرُونَ. And don't be a person that hides your ignorance. Be proud of your ignorance in a weird way. Be proud of it. Say, I don't know. There's no shame in that game, man. You can say, I don't know, and guess who is celebrating? All of the angels around you that don't have to write all of the mistakes you're about to make, right? May Allah Ta'ala protect us. Okay, so we'll go to the chapter on sincerity because I want to read a couple more and then we'll go, inshallah. The first hadith that he quotes in this chapter is the famous hadith that is found usually in the beginnings of most hadith compilations, the hadith on intention, the hadith that Umar radiallahu anhu he narrates, where he says that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that innamal a'malu binniyat. So this hadith is interesting because this hadith is actually like a statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's like an address. He's addressing a group of people, and these people are about to migrate from Mecca to Medina. Now, quick quiz. Why did the Muslims migrate from Mecca to Medina? Persecution. They were being persecuted. They needed to have a place to live, to be safe, to worship, to be able to exist safely, okay? Now, that was the reason for their religion. And I want everyone to understand, like, migrating from Mecca to Medina, 1,400 years later, when you look back at it, it sounds like it'd be easy enough. And also, when you think of Medina now, what do you think of? You're like, oh, Medina, yeah, I would love to migrate to Medina. Are you serious? Right? But Medina back then, there's a couple things. Number one, Mecca was their home. Mecca was where they had their business, their family, their history, their life. I mean, even the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was in Mecca for 53 years. Who wants to move at 53? Right? Ask many of you who are trying to get your parents to move. Like, who wants to get up and leave the life and the friends that they've had after 5 decades? Nobody, really. On top of that, Medina was not Medinatul Munawwara at that time. It only became that when the Prophet ﷺ arrived. It was known as a city called Yathrib. That was its name. And you know what Yathrib was known for? No green dome, no white marble, none of that. You know what it was known for? It was known for being a place that used to cause sickness. Because it was a different topography, it was a different geography. It wasn't mountainous. It was agriculturally ready, so there was a lot of, soft land, fertile land, water, etc. And, this is how sometimes disease passes. So people would get sick. And so when the Muslims migrated from Mecca to Medina, the first thing that happened to everybody was, like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, for example, Bilal, radiallahu anhu, they became sick, and they used to actually stand outside and write poetry about how they missed Mecca. And they would say, we miss Mecca so much, in between coughing, right? They would say, we miss Mecca. Oh, Allah, return us. And that's why the Prophet, ﷺ, he made a specific dua, which is what? Oh, Allah, place love in the hearts of my ummah for which city? Medina. And that's why everybody says Medina and their heart lights up, because of that dua. Okay? Now that I've gave you that context, I've given you the context, I want you to understand, migrating was not easy. We think of the hijrah as being easy. It was not easy. It was very difficult from a personal level, from a political level. You didn't know where you were going to live. There's no Zillow back then, no real estate agents helping you find a new spot. No. You had to go. Many of the people that migrated from Mecca to Medina, they just got paired up with a Medini Muslim. And they were told, help them out, right? Help them find a place to live. It wasn't easy. So there was a lot of potential, let's say, for an ulterior motive to move to Medina. It'd be like as if I told you guys, let's all get up and move from Dallas to Denton. You would have to, and I said, we have to move. There's no choice. We're going to Denton. And you would start looking up like, oh my God, man, we have to, okay. And some of you are like, we're doing it. Roots is moving, Qadam's moving, we're going, right? You guys are the real ones. The others amongst you would be like, what else is in Denton? Like, can we look? Maybe there's other things. Oh, Buc-ee's. Okay, I'm down. Let's go. Right? So there were some Muslims from the Muhajirin who they were ready. They were sincere, but they also had ulterior motives. One of them, this companion, he had a proposal from a woman in Yathrib, in Medina. And he wanted to marry her. And he had been trying to marry her. And he had been asking that, come to Mecca, we'll get married. And she said, I'll only marry you if you move to Medina, right? I'll only marry you if you move to Medina. And so he says, okay, let's go. I'm ready to make hijrah, ya Rasulullah. He was first in line. But the motive was a little bit problematic. Now, is marriage haram? No. Okay, we need a little bit more consensus in the room, okay? Is marriage haram? I know we're all struggling, all right? But is marriage haram? It's not, okay? May Allah Ta'ala give everybody beautiful, righteous spouses. Ameen, ya Rab. Ameen. That they love and that love them and that give them nothing but the best. Ameen, ya Rab. Marriage is not haram, okay? Despite what some parents told their kids growing up. So this ulterior motive is not a problem, is it? Is it is he starting like a haram business? Is he going to Medina because you can grow dates there and he can make a date winery? No. He doesn't have ulterior motives that are impermissible. His ulterior motive, in fact, is good, like to get married. That's good. But what's the problem here? And there's a lesson here. The Prophet ﷺ, he stands up before everybody, all of this group that's going to make hijrah, and he says these lines, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. He says every action is by the intention that the person has, or by its respective intention. And then he says, وَإِنَّمَا لِإِمْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. And every person will get what they intended. They will receive what they intended, meaning they will receive it, or they will receive the reward for it, or this is what will be written for them in the next life. Okay? Everyone's going to get whatever they intended. فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Whoever is coming with us and is moving for Allah and His Messenger, meaning for the sake of their religion, then he says, فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Then on the day of judgment, when everyone is lined up and there is a group of people known as the Muhajirun, and they are called out and announced and proclaimed, it will be said that so-and-so followed the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and moved, gave up everything and left Mecca and went to Medina for Allah and His Messenger. Imagine that honor. Imagine the honor of giving up everything you had, your money, your wealth, your property. It's not like now. Moving now, you sell a house, you buy a house, you kind of end up kind of sort of even. Okay, we restart, maybe a couple steps back, but I can rebuild. No. Then there, like this is your land. To sell it is not easy. You don't just like get a realtor, sell it, move on, wire me the money, put it in an escrow. That's not how that worked back then, man. You're talking about cutting everything and leaving. And by the way, when you're leaving, someone else is going to go and steal your property. Those people that are kicking you out are trying to steal your property. So the people from Palestine will have good company in Jannah with the Muhajirun. They'll be able to have some good conversations, and we'll all sit there and watch and say, wow, subhanAllah. So he says, imagine that on that you've given up everything and you are proclaimed in front of Allah that, oh Allah, this one was a real one. This one did it for real. Then he says, وَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى دُنْيَا يُصِيبُهَا أَوْ إِمْرَأَةٍ يَنْكِحُهَا فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى مَا هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِ. Or, he said, for the person that's making this journey and moving with us, because you have some dunyawi aspirations you want to accomplish, or you're trying to get married to somebody, he says, well, you're going to get what you move for. You'll get it. Which means that, you know what? Shadi Mubarak, right? May Allah Ta'ala bless you. Barakallahu lakuma wa alaykuma wa jama'a bainakuma fi khair, right? The Prophet ﷺ will celebrate, but you may not get the reward of hijrah in the akhirah for that. You're not going to get the announcement. Or maybe Medina was more opportune for you to make some money. And that's fine. You can make some money in Medina. That's okay, right? But you're not going to get that special proclamation about your faith just like so-and-so is going to get it. So what is this hadith teaching us? This hadith is teaching us a couple things about intention. Number one, on the day of judgment, all that will matter is what motivated you to do what you do. Many of us in this room, well, let me start by this way. All of us are in this room. All of us, for better or for worse, are being subjected to listening to my voice. All of us. The only thing that makes my voice tolerable is that it's the words of the Prophet ﷺ. But all of us are here. But not all of us are going to get the same reward. Some of us came for different reasons, more noble than others. I pray that everyone is rewarded. But the reality of it is, and scholars say this, that in the line for salah, there are different levels of reward based on the heart of the people praying. And so, there will be the person who's praying because my spouse brought me here. There will be the person who's praying because my mom and dad told me to come do this. There will be the person who's praying because, well, everyone was walking that way and I kind of wanted to walk this way, but I didn't want to look awkward and walk this way, so I walked that way. And then there will be the person that's praying because they say, how can I not pray right now? After everything, Allah, this is what I was made to do. This is at this time, in this moment, there's nothing else better than this. Right? So the scholars say that in the line for salah, as you look, there's 50, 100, whatever people in that line or in that jama'ah. Not everyone's going to get the same reward. Your job is not to worry about what other people are doing. Your job is to make sure that your reward is going to be earned. To think about it. Why am I doing this? This is why some scholars, Imam al-Ghazali, he actually recommended, before you do something, stop, pause, 5 seconds. Ask yourself, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And then he even said, midway through, and this is kind of awkward in prayer, but midway through, remind yourself, I'm doing this for Allah. I'm not doing this for any other reason. And then at the end of your salah, you conclude by reminding yourself, I'm doing this for Allah. You can do this with any deed. Whenever you intend to do good, check your intention not once, not twice, but 3 times, beginning, middle, and end, to make sure that you kept it pure and sincere the entire way. The second lesson from this hadith is that it is possible that a good intention can ruin a great intention. It's possible. Like this guy's intention, the one that was referenced in the hadith, it was a good intention, but it ruined a great intention. If I told you guys, hey, do you want $1,000? You're like, sure. I'm like, okay, here you go. You walk away. I say, if you said no, I would have given you $1 million. Yeah, exactly. Adam's like, are you serious? Right? In Jannah, I promise you, I got you, okay? If we make it. If you make it first, pull me in. So that's the feeling, right? That's the feeling. Like you get something good, you're like, all right, $1,000. I can almost get an iPhone, right? But then you walk away and realize what was lost, and you're like, I'm the greatest fool in the world. Why didn't I just wait to see, right? What was another option for me? This is what this hadith is teaching us. Yeah, getting married to this woman, great. May Allah bless you. But you just gave up hijrah with the Prophet ﷺ. And by the way, if you did hijrah with the Prophet ﷺ, and that was your intention, guess who's waiting for you on the other side of that journey? If your intention was sincere, your fiance is still there. So there's no competition between great and good. It's all about sequence. Do the best thing first and let everything else come later. I'll give you an example. Many of us like to socialize. We like to get together, have dinner, etc. Okay? We come over, we hang out, we have food, we spend time. You know, once you're 30, you start to do a couple things. You start to play card games because you want to celebrate not being on your phone. You start to do these like weird group games. And then you also start talking about how much, you know, you're training, how much you started running at the Dallas Muslim Running Club. Okay, and how much you're enjoying that. So these are all 30 and above characteristics, right? And then we all, you know, we have dinner, we get together, this and that, and then the night is wrapping up. And then there's like a few people that'll be like, oh, we should pray Isha, right? It's a great, look, hanging out, socializing, spending time with Muslims, remembering Allah, beautiful, great, awesome. But the sequencing was off, wasn't it? It could have been, it was a good night, but it could have been a great night if we got to where we were going and said, you know what? We have 5 minutes. No one here is starving to death. Let's pray Isha, and then let's enjoy our time together. Instead of giving Isha the scraps, let's give it the best. Instead of giving Isha like what we have left in the tank with our focus, do I have wudu? I don't know. Allahu Akbar, right? Instead of that being our, well, that's great. It's a safe battery. Don't worry about it, okay? Instead of that being our focal point, no. Our focal point needs to be what? That we are going to make sure that we give Allah our best. فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Okay? That's the lesson from that narration. And then we'll do one more. And this is talking about the power of intention. Ja'far ibn Hayyan, he said, he gave us a little lesson to live by. He says, and this is very important for those of us that have the intention to do things, but we don't think we can do them. So I want to read the Quran this Ramadan. I want to finish the Quran cover to cover. How many of you, that's your goal? Raise your hand if that's your goal. Okay? How many of you are nervous about the thought of maybe I can't do that? Okay, good. Your intention is there, but you feel less than confident in your ability to do it, right? Now, this is what Ja'far bin Hayyan, he said, Abdullah bin Mubarak, he quotes this. And he says, Milaku hadhihi al-a'mal al-niyat. Milak comes from mulk, right? Malik, tamlik. The one who is in authority of your action is actually your intention. This is being said 1,000+ years ago. Now, the new age, hyper-spiritual, whole foods, aligning chakras, we're all about what? I'm going to manifest. I apologize if you manifest. I'm not making fun of anyone who manifests. But I will say that this is what we learned. You know, the idea of being intentional. All of these are like new age ideas that we have traditional roots in, 10 centuries ago. 1,400 years ago, we talked about the power of intention. The Prophet ﷺ taught us about the power of intention. And now, a mid-30s Caucasian woman from Beverly Hills is on TikTok talking about making intentions. This is something our messenger has taught us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a long time ago. So listen to this statement and tell me this doesn't sound exactly like something you'd hear from your friend who drinks kombucha. Milako hadhihi al-a'mal an-niyat. The one that controls all of your actions is your intention. If you intend or believe that something is capable by Allah's fadl, the action itself is less relevant than the actual intention. And then listen to this line. فَإِنَّ الرَّجُلَ يَبْلُغُ بِنِيَّتِهِ. A person will arrive at a destination, accomplishing something by the virtue of their intention, مَا لَا يَبْلُغُ بِعَمَلِهِ. That they never would have arrived at if they just did the work without intending to do it. Isn't that amazing? And if it's crazy if you think about it. 27th night of Ramadan. May Allah Ta'ala give us Ramadan. Okay? Or Umrah. Who here has made a Umrah before? Okay, mashallah. May Allah invite us to make Umrah and Hajj. Okay, Umrah. Wow, like what a... Try to break down Umrah from a mathematical perspective. Give me Umrah, not emotionally. Just tell me what it is. Starting from Dallas. As a male, it'll be fun. It'll be more fun as a male. Okay. Not that. Relax. Okay? Ihram is more difficult. That's why, for men, because of the two sheets. You understand. Well, you don't understand, but it's, yeah. Okay? So, Umrah, mathematically, just logistically, what is Umrah? Umrah is, okay, I got to get on a plane. I got to pay a lot of money, thousands of dollars. And I got to go from my hometown, and I have to transit somewhere unless I get Saudi direct flight. Got to land in Medina or Jeddah. If I land in Jeddah, somewhere in the air or in my connecting city, I have to do this thing called ihram, which is putting on clothes. For men, it's 2 white towels and a pair of chappals. For women, I can wear an abaya or anything else. It's not a big deal. But I also can't use scented soap, scented deodorant, scented fragrances. I have to be careful. Can't kill bugs. Shouldn't get angry or argue. I really have to be in like a good state. Okay? Then I go and I land. I have to go check into my hotel. I check into my hotel, drop off my bags, and it's 11 p.m. I've traveled for 21 hours. What am I going to do? I'm going to go walk in a circle for 45 minutes amongst thousands, tens of thousands of people, getting bumped, getting pushed a little bit, not sure who's touching me. And then after that, I'm going to go and I'm going to walk in laps for another hour and a half. The whole process is going to take about 2.5 hours. And then if I'm a man, I'm going to go shave my head. Logistically, right? Like if you broke it down, almost like the ingredients of a recipe with no spirit in it, it doesn't sound very fun. And if I told you to do the same thing around this building, hey, walk around this campus for 45 minutes. All right, you done? All right, now walk back and forth for another hour and a half. All right, you done? All right, now go shave your head. You'd be like, there's no meaning to this. This is torture, right? But now we add the niyyah to it. And the niyyah, forget the plane ride. A couple weeks before, you're like getting nervous. You're getting excited. You're researching. Every time you see a picture of the Kaaba, you're like, oh, right? And then you get on the plane. You're like checking everything. You're packing. You go to Amazon. You just type in Hajj. You buy everything they have. It's ships, battery packs, vitamins, right? Dramamine. You got everything, right? You pack your bags. You go to the airport. You're like in a hal, like you're in a state. You get on that plane. You're saying salam to everybody. This person's like, I'm not Muslim. You're like, wa alaikum salam. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. The person's like, yes, I've heard al-baik is delicious. You're like, no. You transit. You start seeing people wearing ihram in the airport and you get excited. You go change. You get into your ihram. Now you get on your plane. You're landing in Jeddah. The pilot or the announcement says, what? Now is time to make your niyyah. You land, you get on a bus, you're heading to the Kaaba, you start to see that beautiful marble. You can't drop your bags off fast enough. You go to the hotel, you run out, you walk in the masjid, and you see finally the Kaaba. And then for the next 2 hours, you don't know where the time has gone. The niyyah was able to give you so much that the action itself alone couldn't give you. Right? And that's what a good niyyah does. A righteous niyyah has the power to transform anything, any moment, any situation, anything you would not otherwise do. Think of Ramadan, 30 days and 30 nights. You can't eat or drink from sunrise from dawn till sunset. That's hard. I know a lot of people that are trying new diets and fads to lose weight. That's one thing no one will sign up for. Hey, no calories. From when? Well, from Fajr till Maghrib. Are you serious? But now Ramadan comes, we're all like celebrating. We're excited. What are you excited about? I don't get to eat. Or drink. Really? Yeah, and at night, I stay up late. I don't sleep either. That sounds tough. Oh, it's amazing. You should try it. And the last 10 nights, I don't even know what day it is anymore. Like literally, the niyyah transforms what otherwise would have been very difficult into something that is unspeakably sweet to the heart. Right? So what's missing now? Now think about this, subhanAllah. We all can agree that Umrah and Hajj are sweet, right? We all can agree that Ramadan is sweet. I promise you, Fajr is just as sweet. Dhuhr is just as sweet. Asr is the same thing. Maghrib is to Allah. Isha is your conversation before you go to bed. I promise you, sadaqah is just as sweet. I promise you, being good to your parents, it's all just as sweet. But the thing that's missing is that the intention is not curated enough. For Ramadan, we work hard on it. For Hajj and Umrah, we do. But for the things that we see as mundane, we do the actions over and over and over again. We're like, why isn't it working? Well, maybe something's missing. And that's why he says this beautiful line. He says, فَإِنَّ الرَّجُلَ يَبْلُغُ بِنِيَّتِهِ. Maybe the niyyah can carry you to the finish line. مَا لَا يَبْلُغُ بِعَمَلِهِ. In a way that your deeds never could. Right? So we ask Allah Ta'ala to purify our intentions and to give us sincere intention and pure hearts. And may Allah Ta'ala make everything that we do for His sake sweet. And may Allah Ta'ala make the niyyah the thing that carries us and anchors us and motivates us in every situation, in every scenario. And may Allah Ta'ala draw us ever nearer to Him and the example of His Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Barakallahu feekum, everybody. Jazakumullah khairan. I'm going to conclude now, inshallah. Isha prayer is in just about 9 minutes in the musalla. So if you want to head over, that'd be great, inshallah, to join us for Isha prayer. You can head through the inside if you take your shoes. You can head through the inside, inshallah. Or if you want to walk outside, you can. بإذن الله والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.